What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Corey Tulaba, the NBA Draft Dude, and we are going to do something a little bit different today. Today, we are going to react to the brand new ESPN Top 100 by Jonathan Givony and my guy, Mike Schmitz. Now, I'm not going to do the entire Top 100, just kind of hit on the main guys in the top 30, but it's a little bit interesting when you're contrasting the top 30 from earlier in the season to the top 30 today. Already in this young season, there's been a tremendous amount of movement, so let's just get into it. Alright, so in the top 2, there aren't any changes. ESPN still has Chet Holmgren at number 1 and Paolo Banchero at number 2. Now, Paolo and Duke beat Gonzaga in their huge matchup the other night. And Paolo is the shining star, right? He had 20 points in the first half before having to leave in the second half with another bout of cramp issues. But ESPN is kind of sticking with their first kind of gut feeling and rolling with Chet, because while Paolo may have outshined Chet in the matchup, Chet still put up decent numbers and had an impact in the game, and the game was tight all the way through. So I think that I'm with them right now. I have Chet 1 and Paolo 2. That can certainly change. Things I want to see from Paolo in the coming months is I want to see him attack the hoop more. I don't want him to settle for these dribble jumpers. I know that he could hit them. I love that he's proven that he can knock them down, but still, I want to see him more aggressive. I want to see him use that strength that he showed off when he put his shoulder into Chet and drove him through the hoop. I want to see that on a more consistent basis. I want to see the free throw attempts up. I want to see him to continue to work on that shot and just kind of be, kind of like an old man LeBron, less playmaking, a little less bounce, but, kind of playing with that poise, the toughness, the nuance, the physicality that I know that Paolo is capable of. Chet, I mean, look, you look at the kid, you think he's going to break, but he keeps coming at you even when somebody does go through him. He's averaging 4 blocks a game. He's shooting like 80% from the rim or something crazy like that. He's shown that he could pass it. He's shown that he could stroke it from behind the arc. I'm still rolling with Chet throughout the season. It's going to be interesting as we get closer to the draft, throughout the whole process, how things, go, how the pendulum shifts back and forth. I don't think you can go wrong either way right now. I love arguments between both guys, but I'm still rolling with Chet, just like ESPN. So Chet's at 1 and Paolo's at 2. But things get interesting here now at the 3rd slot for ESPN. They have Jabari Smith. Now, Jabari Smith is actually a guy who rose up a little bit. He was at number 4 early in the season. Now he's at number 3, and for good reason. That dude looks like the real deal. This dude has got that FU mentality from the power forward spot. He's shown that he can knock down shots. He can guard every position. The way he moves his feet out on the perimeter, that defensive versatility is what every NBA team is looking for. You see it a little bit, in Evan Mobley. I mean, he's got the fire, the passion, the offensive game. He's passing out of these high-low actions. He's not going to be a playmaker necessarily, but he makes the right reads. I just love how he plays the game. It's hard to disagree with him having moved up to number 3 with his early play this season. All right, at number 4, ESPN has Jalen Duren. Now, I actually went to see Duren in person at the Barclays Center last week, and he had foul trouble early in the game. In the second half, he kind of didn't turn it on until he had this huge block, and then he made a little bit of things happen in the tournament. He didn't have a big game in the Friday game of the tournament in the championship, but obviously you can't judge the prospect based on this 2-game sample size. He's performed well in the other games this season, and what you love about him is just the gigantic, monstrous build that he has for a 17-year-old kid who, came out a year early. He's a beast physically, and he looked it in person. I mean, he's chiseled, he's got bounce, he's... The one thing, you want to see him run a little bit harder, but you understand why people say he's Baby Dwight. I don't necessarily think that I'm going to call him Baby Dwight per se, but some people do, and I get it. I don't know if I would have him at number 4 right now, but I totally understand, because physically, he's an NBA body already at 17. Imagine what he's going to look like, at 24, 25, and how he's going to be able to physically manhandle the position as a young player. But he's going to have to show that he can shoot it a little bit, that he can knock down free throws, and that he could bring that intensity and those kind of winning intangibles all game long and not wait for it to come to him. I don't think he's going to show off a scoring arsenal this year at Memphis. They're running the Imani Bates at point guard experiment. It's not going well. They don't really have a point guard, and he's the type of guy that needs, players to set him up. So I don't think we're going to see the full repertoire, so I'm interested, 4 or 5 years down the line to see how that develops. But you can't argue with the potential he has and the big body, but I'm still a little hesitant to take him, with some of these guys behind him. At number 5, ESPN has Jaden Ivey from Purdue, and I gotta say, you can't argue it right now. Jaden Ivey is absolutely hooping. I'm gonna see him in a couple of weeks when they play Rutgers. Shout out to my guy Frank. I'm really excited to see what he looks like in person, because on camera, on film, he pops. So to see that translate in person, usually it kind of makes it a little bit more like wow when you see it in person. The kid had a 1-minute sequence in one of these in the game against UNC where it was a tie game late in the second half, and he just, from 1 minute to the next, he ended the game. And next thing you know, Purdue was up 9. He took the ball coast to coast in transition, crazy kick out from the paint to the 3-point line. Next possession, gets it, takes it, hits the weak side corner. Then the next possession, he comes down and he gets an N1. I mean, he's got that kind of takeover mentality. He plays with passion. He's made huge strides from year 1 to year 2, carrying over from his awesome FIBA tournament. I can't wait to see what he does the rest of the year, because he looks like he's taken a big leap, and he wasn't supposed to be the number 1 shooting guard in this class. So I'm really excited that a kid like this, who shows that you can go to college and stay and develop, I'm glad he's proving all of kind of the doubters wrong, and showing people that you could do things where you don't have to just be a one and done guy. And that brings us to number 6, Jaden Hardy, the guy who was supposed to go earlier in this draft, and he's really struggled in the G League, man. I was so excited. I had him number 1 on my board pre-season, and he's just really had a hard time playing the professional game at the same level that Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga did. And that's not to say that Green and Kuminga didn't struggle last year, but the processing is just very slow right now. And you see, when a special kid comes along like Scoot Henderson, who missed a few games and now came back, you see what it looks like when you see that special kind of player on that same team. And Hardy so far hasn't shown that. He's not knocking down shots, and that's what he's supposed to do. He's having trouble creating space with his dribble. I hope that he starts knocking down shots, that he gets hot, that he gets more comfortable. And as the season kind of goes along, he looks more like the guy that we thought he was going to be coming in. Because when he gets hot, there's not many people who can knock down shots like he can. Number 7, we got Patrick Baldwin Jr. from Milwaukee. Patrick Baldwin Jr. is one of my favorite prospects in the draft. He looks monstrous on the court. I tweeted out, is it just me, or does he just look gigantic on the court compared to everybody else? Because I think he's listed at 6'9", 220, but he looks a little bit bigger than that. I think he's going to be a really smooth jumbo Tyler Hero. He's jacking up a lot of shots right now. When they go in, they look really smooth. He's the man in Milwaukee. He's not going to be playing a ton of tough competition. When he played a team like Florida, he struggled from the field a little bit, so that's going to be something to monitor going forward. But I could just see him coming into the league being the perfect complementary player who could switch positions, guard a bunch of spots, rebounds the ball. I just love this kid's potential going forward in the league. So it's going to be hard for me to see him dropping much further than this, and I think that he can play himself up a little bit more even still. Number 8, this is the biggest surprise. We have Trevor Keels. Because Keels, I don't even think he was listed on ESPN's board before this, but Keels is a guy who, he floored me. I saw him live in the Champions Classic when Duke played Kentucky, and up close, in personal, this kid is a beast, man. Physically, he is going through people's chests. You can't move him off his spot. He hounded Ty Washington, just wouldn't let him do anything on the floor. He's shown really good feel in the pick and roll. I think that if Duke had a little bit more shooters, that he would, you'd see even more kind of NBA level point guard play out of him. But I love him as this combo guard, kind of guard 1 through 3, probably even 4 he's strong enough to guard. I think that if he proves that he can knock down shots, that he'll hold up in this spot. But that shot making's got to improve, got to be more consistent. But he's definitely an NBA type of guy, and I was floored by him when I saw him live. At number 9, we got Jean Montero from the Overtime Elite program. He's a guy I have no idea how to evaluate this year. So I kind of got to trust Mike and Jonathan on this one based on that. But just from a skill perspective, that kid is shifty. He can knock down shots. He's super fun to watch. I mean, I'm a big fan. I had him around this spot on my own personal preseason lottery board. Maybe I had him 10, maybe I had 11, but it was around this spot. So I don't think it's necessarily too high, but I think you're going a little bit more on faith than anything else when you're comparing him to some of the other prospects. At number 10, ESPN is Ty Washington. I'm a little iffy on this. Now, Ty has played much better since he kind of crapped the bed against Duke at the Champions Classic. And honestly, he just missed shots. And he dealt with Trevor Keels, who was putting clamps on him. And that's what Keels does. But he definitely has this really smooth pull-up game. He's got a great floater that he's been killing teams with. I don't think he's a point guard. I think that at best, he's a 1.5 combo type guard. But I don't think he's a guy that's going to be running offense full time, because I don't think he has a really solid dribble. He gets a little loosey-goosey with it sometimes. I think 10's a little high for Ty Washington, but I think that if he keeps proving that he could be this kind of pull-up guy who's shooting really efficiently, it's going to be hard to argue with taking him out of the lottery. And if we've learned anything, Kentucky guards, they don't show their whole bag in college. Brandon Boston Jr. in the G League just dropped 46 points. So I think that this maybe, for me personally, is a little early, but I don't necessarily have a problem with it. Next on the list is J.D. Davison. Coming off the bench at Alabama, the most athletic point guard in the class, just absolutely ridiculous bounce, ridiculous strength, reminds me of Baron Davis a little bit in that regard. Hasn't exactly set the world on fire, but you're betting on the athleticism, the strength, the playmaking, the shot making. It's going to be interesting going forward to see if the game slows down. He kind of takes the reins a little bit more, but his potential is through the roof, so it's not hard to tell why he's up here around top 10-ish. Ousmane Dieng at number 12. He's playing for New Zealand this year. He looked pretty good in some kind of like preseason action, but their season hasn't really kicked off. He's 6'9", 6'10". Nobody really knows, but he's this tall, shot-making wing. A lot of Paul George comparisons for him. I think this is a little high for me right now. He's ways away, in my opinion. But the NBL season is going to tell us a lot. It's kicking off soon, so I'm excited for to see him in action more consistently going forward. Number 13, Iowa's Keegan Murray. Keegan Murray has been just murking people, destroying people. His numbers are insane right now. The jump he's made from last year to this year, the physicality, I mean, he's going through people. His handle looks improved. His shooting is improved. His percentages are great. He looks like the type of guy that's going to be able to play every front court position, including center potentially. Now, he's not had the toughest schedule so far, and when conference play comes around, maybe, he's going to come back down to earth a little bit in some of those numbers, some of those percentages. He looks like a man possessed, and I totally understand why he's moved so far up. Not only ESPN's board, but I've seen him moving into the top 10 on other boards as well. So, shout out to Keegan Murray. He is balling right now. The last spot in the lottery is Caleb Houston. Houston from Michigan was a guy that a lot of people had as a top 10 pick, potential top 5 pick coming into the year. He's really struggled. He's not knocking down shots, and that's kind of his thing. Now, he is kind of a guy who is a connector. He moves the ball around. He can pass it a little bit, but he's not flashy. He's not going to do a whole lot else. So if he's not knocking down shots, he's kind of this not so great prospect, but also he's a guy that's not going to kill you when he's on the floor. Just kind of boring kind of guy. So right now, I appreciate that, they haven't panicked with Houston and dropped him super far, even though he's not knocking down shots. I'm going to see him in person in a few weeks. So I'm really intrigued by his progress, because I think he's going to get hot at some point, and the buzz is going to start going. He's going to start shooting up these boards. Mark Williams from Duke at number 15. When I saw him at the Champions Classic, he dealt with foul trouble, and that's kind of what I think his season is going to be. He's a big-time shot blocker. He's ridiculously long and athletic. I mean, in person, his arms looked like they just never ended. And I think he's perfectly suited for the NBA as kind of a rim-rolling lob threat / big who's going to guard pick and roll and be able to cover a lot of ground and drop coverages and block shots, protect the rim. I think he's perfectly suited for that. We'll see if 15 is too high. Had a monstrous game against Chet and Gonzaga, and that's why this kind of jump up the board has happened so abruptly for him, because you're going up against the potential number one prospect, and you're having a showing like that, you're going to turn some heads and open up some eyes, and that's what he did. But I think he's going to have an inconsistent season just based on the fact that his skill set, his strengths, shot blockers, especially young ones, they get in foul trouble. So I think his minutes are going to kind of hover around the 20-ish mark, and he's going to stay, maybe drop down into the 20s by draft time. But hey, if he takes this showing against Chet and Gonzaga and just keeps that momentum going forward, you could actually see him shooting up to the top 10 too. But I err on the sign of caution and think this is a good spot, but he'll probably end up a little lower. At number 16, Ben Mathurin from Arizona. This is a guy I like a lot. I think this is a good spot for him right now. One of my favorite shooting guards in the class. Strong, athletic, can knock down shots, efficient, gets to the rim, gets out in transition, can defend. Not like super big, so he's not going to be a guy that's switching all over the floor onto these big power forward type guys, but versatile and just plays the game the right way, and you could fit him on any NBA team, so I think this is a good spot for him. Peyton Watson at number 17. I have a hot take about Peyton Watson. I think he's more of a 4-5 than he is like a 3-4. And I think if teams look at him as kind of this big man who could do a little bit off the bounce and not looking at him as this wing whose shot needs to come around, I think that maybe you get a clearer picture of what he'll be able to do in the NBA. He's struggled, he's up and down, he's inconsistent, and that's what happens when you don't have like a go-to jumper and you're this kind of like athletic swing man. So I think that's what his season is going to be, but I think he could be a monstrous weapon for this UCLA team off the bench. But they're going to rely on Jaquez and Johnny Juzang, so he doesn't have to be this big-time scoring threat. Anything he contributes in that regard is gravy. So I'm going to see how the game slows down for him going forward, but I really love his potential defensively. I think he's going to potentially be an all-NBA defender if he figures it out and the body fills out, because I think he's this really athletic shot blocker who can guard multiple positions. But having him outside the lottery right now based on his play is totally fair. At number 18, Bryce McGowan out of Nebraska. He's a guy who came out of nowhere on most people's boards. He wasn't a big-time top 30 guy coming in. I'm not sure if anybody had him coming in as a top 30 guy, but this kid looks like an awesome off-the-bounce shot maker. He's scoring at all three levels. He's been a joy to watch, and what a surprise for this program. But shot looks smooth, and when you could hit some of the shots that he's hit so far in this season, there's going to be a team that gets real intrigued with you. So he's a guy to keep an eye on, monitor as a potential riser going forward this year. Number 19, I'm surprised it took this long to get here, but Kendall Brown from Baylor. This kid's bounce is absurd, and he's doing things as a playmaker. These flashes that he has, that's really fun. I don't know what position he is in the league. He's probably a power forward. He doesn't have the longest reach, but I think he's a disruptor defensively. He's not going to be a big-time like rim protector, but he gets up and he can block shots. He can't shoot right now, and if he could shoot, he would definitely be a lottery guy because athletically he's in a class with J.D. Davison. At number 20, Yannick Sosa. Sosa was a top 10 guy coming in, and I'm surprised he's still at number 20 on ESPN's board. I guess they're not giving up on that defensive potential. He's just been really, really poor on the offensive end this year, and I'm not sure if he's physically mature enough to have that defense translate for a while in the NBA. His athleticism, his speed, the way that he can cover ground on the court and guard out on the perimeter at his height is truly impressive. But the offense is so underdeveloped that to have him on the floor is going to be a struggle, even if he is bringing fun things defensively. So I'm not all the way out on Sosa yet, but I could definitely see him as a guy who actually slips into the second round going forward. At 21, we have Tennessee's Kennedy Chandler. Chandler could be the best point guard in this class. I think he's the most traditional point guard in the class. He's my personal favorite point guard to watch in the class. I just love how he operates in the pick and roll. I love his speed in transition. I love his floor game. His shot looks legit, but he's looked good throughout the year. He's short. He's listed at 6 foot. I think he's shorter than that, so that's kind of the thing that hurts him the most, but I love this kid's game. 21 seems low to me. I feel like he should be listed a little bit higher, but, you know, again, it's early. Number 22, Dyson Daniels, another G League Ignite guy, just like Jaden Hardy. Daniels, up and down. The G League is kind of trusting him to run the point right now. I don't think he's a full-time point in the NBA. He's got sloppy handle, inconsistent shot. I love his defensive effort and energy and what he brings on that end. I think he can make plays that, you know, give you hope that he can run an offense, but I think it's going to be more of like a secondary, second side, pick and roll type operator, not a primary role. I think that in this range, he's a good guy to take a shot on because he's got good size and some good tools, but he's a guy that I'd monitor because I could see him kind of following in Daishen Nix's footsteps and kind of having a drop come draft night. At number 23, ESPN has Max Christie from Michigan State. This is another guy that I saw in person when he played Kansas. Didn't have the best game. He isn't having the best season. He's known as a shooter, and the shot looks pure, but it hasn't been dropping yet. A little bit like Houston in that regard, but what impressed me about him in person is the size looks legit, the length looks legit, and he just has some NBA movements offensively. Like he'll get the ball and he'll cut real quick off of it using the threat of his shot to attack the rim. Now, he's more of a finesse guy. He's not going into the defense, his body, and trying to draw fouls, which is something I think he needs to work on throughout the season, but I'm expecting the shot to come around at some point and his name to start heating up a little bit. I'm still buying stock in Max Christie right now, so this feels like it is a little bit low and it might rise throughout the year. At number 25, we have Ochai Agbaji from Kansas, who is another guy that I saw in that game against Max Christie in person. And Agbaji is an upperclassman, but he was freaking awesome. He dominated the game. He looked like he felt more comfortable off the bounce in the game, and that's kind of why he seems like a first-round guy right now. His shot, he's been on fire. It looks pure. Athletically, he's there. The only thing keeping him in this range right now is his age, and for good reason, you know, because that's a legitimate concern with upperclassmen. But from a skill perspective, he seems like the type of role player that every team could use, where he's going to be able to guard whatever guard you want and hold up physically and then knock down shots, get out in transition, move off the ball, do a lot of the little things. He's not going to be a guy who's going to come in and be a 25-point per game scorer in the league, but when you're at this part of like the rankings, most of these guys aren't going to be that unless you're truly swinging for the fences. At number 26, Marjan Beauchamp, another G League Ignite guy. This is a guy I think is going to rise higher. I think he's going to be a top 20 guy by draft time. He's a small forward, like 6'7", long arms. Kind of reminds me of Josh Howard, kind of an old school name, somewhat old school. Just the shot isn't like super consistent, but it looks clean. But athletically, the kid gets out in transition. He can throw it down. When you give him some room and he can pick up a head of steam, he is throwing down a monster dunk on your head. I think that he's just like this awesome utility guy that every NBA team want. All right, 27, Wendell Moore Jr. out of Duke. What a jump he's made this year. He looks awesome, man. He looks so comfortable in his role. He's knocking down shots, handling the ball, running the team. I mean, Duke's team this year is freaking loaded, man. And Wendell Moore Jr. is definitely part of that. I think if an NBA team is going to be able to scoop him up at this part of the draft, and this part of the draft towards the 30s is where NBA teams are looking for role players. These are the guys, the teams that are, you know, winning games, and they want guys who maybe can come in right away and contribute. And I think he's going to be able to do that, you know, not at a high level as a rookie because it takes a long time to get accustomed to the league, but he's going to be a value play and maybe somebody who's going to be able to come in 10, 15-minute spurts here and there throughout his rookie year, and then you see a jump in year 2, year 3. So I think Wendell Moore Jr., if he continues hitting shots at the rate he's hitting them at Duke this year, he's going to really make a name for himself. 28, we got Damian Collins from Kentucky. Up and down, inconsistent. He's a guy that reminds me a little bit of Greg Brown from Texas last year, like absurd athlete, a little skinny, maybe the shot looks like it could be there, but it isn't totally there, doesn't process the game defensively at the speed that you need him to, is going to have these really impressive moments, and then these moments that are going to, glue him to the bench. But first round athleticism for sure. It's going to be another guy worth monitoring going forward because I can see his stock fluctuating wildly in either direction. Number 29, Nikola Jovic, mega basket, 6'10", scoring wing. He had so much height as a potential top 10 guy coming into the year. ESPN was a little bit lower on him coming into the year, but a lot of boards had him way up high as this guy who was going to come in and kind of be like a Jason Tatum. He's struggled this year. He's not knocking down his shot consistently, and if he's not going to be a shot maker, I'm not sure he offers enough other things to his game that makes him a worthwhile guy to take in the lottery, but people love this dude. And, 29, this ranking, if you get him in this range, and you think anywhere in the 20 to 30 range, I think that's a home run because I do think that his scoring potential is certainly there. But this feels more realistic to me than where a lot of people had him pre-draft. And, the last guy I'm going to talk about in the 30s, AJ Griffin from Duke. Now, AJ Griffin has not played a lot of minutes. He's coming off an injury. He was injured in high school. You definitely have to worry about that with him. But I think that this drop from AJ Griffin, from top 10 guy to already at number 30, is a little steep. I'm not with that. I think that we should be a little bit more patient because I think he's going to have his moments this year in college. And if I was an NBA team, I would definitely take a shot way, way, way earlier than this over some of the guys listed ahead of him, just based on his body, his skill set. And, like I said, Duke's loaded. So he's got a lot of competition for minutes, and Duke's winning. They're the number one team in the country. It's turned to this situation where he was supposed to be like this dynamic duo with Paolo to now he's kind of in the background behind, Wendell Moore and Trevor Keels and Paolo, Mark Williams. I'm not giving up on him right now. I think a team is going to take a chance on him way before, number 30, just based on his pedigree and his body. I mean, he looked in person, he looked like a freaking bodybuilder, like an NFL tight end or something. I still believe in his skill set. I think we've seen flashes throughout the season, and we're early. We haven't seen the whole package. I think maybe we have a couple of games that shows off the package a little bit, but I'm buying all of the AJ Griffin stock if he's going to be this low right now. We'll see if my opinion changes throughout the year. But that's the top 30 for ESPN's updated rankings. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like, share, all the good stuff. If you're looking for daily NBA draft writing to follow throughout the season from a team of awesome writers, myself included, head to and subscribe to the No Ceiling Substack. We are killing it so far this year. And get ready, because as the games keep piling on and we get further throughout the season, Film Sesh is returning, and I am bringing the heat this year. So again, like, subscribe, share, stay locked into the channel because the heat is coming. Thank you for watching, everybody. Until next time, we out. Peace.